Kexter's exoskeleton finally settled into a pale blue resignation. "Your credentials," he ground out, "appear to be in order, Commander Chen. Welcome to the bridge." Sarah nodded, professional mask firmly in place as she stepped past him. But as she took her station, she could feel the Admiral's eyes on her back, could sense the ripple of unease spreading through the bridge crew. They all knew something had just changed, even if they didn't understand what. The quantum chip pulsed once more in her pocket, a reminder of the secrets still to come. Sarah allowed herself a small smile as she began her work. The Admiral was right about one thing. Some truths had been buried in the dark between stars. But humanity had never been afraid of the dark. The ancient archive chamber hummed with energy that only Sarah could feel. She stood before a towering wall of crystalline matrices, each one containing millennia of stored data, but her attention was fixed on a single panel that seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. 3 days had passed since her confrontation with Admiral Kextor, and she'd spent every free moment here, searching for answers. "You shouldn't be able to sense them at all," Dr. Vixna said, her tentacles wavering in confusion. The Mersian scientist had been studying these archives for decades, but even she couldn't explain what was happening. "These matrices are completely inert to all known species." Sarah pressed her hand against the crystal surface, feeling the familiar tingle of energy rushing through her nerves. "Then I guess humans aren't as known as everyone thought." The panel beneath her palm flared to life, holographic symbols cascading through the air around them. Dr. Vixna's tentacles coiled tightly, her species' expression of shock. "Impossible. We've tried every known activation sequence." "Maybe you were trying too hard." Sarah let her fingers dance across the symbols, following patterns that felt as natural as breathing. Sometimes the simplest answer is the right one. The quantum chip in her pocket pulsed in harmony with the archive's energy, confirming what she'd suspected since finding it. This wasn't just about access to the bridge or human rights in the Council. Something far older was stirring, something that recognized human DNA in a way that defied conventional science. A new hologram blossomed before them, showing star maps and equations that made Dr. Vixna's tentacles twist in excitement. "These are navigation charts from the precursor era, but the language, it's unlike anything we've seen before." "That's because you've been reading it wrong." Sarah studied the flowing symbols, understanding washing over her like a wave. "It's not a language at all. It's pure mathematics, encoded in the structure of space-time itself." "How could you possibly know that?" Sarah turned to find Admiral Kextor standing in the chamber's entrance, his crystalline form dark with suspicion. 2 Zentarian guards flanked him, their weapon arms raised but not yet charged. "The same way I know you've been studying these archives in secret for years," Sarah replied calmly. "The same way I know what really happened to the human researchers who disappeared while working on the Duration Project." Kextor stepped forward, his faceted eyes reflecting the holographic displays. "You're interfering with classified research, Commander Chen. This area is now restricted." "Restricted?" Sarah laughed, the sound echoing off the ancient walls. "Admiral, nothing about this is restricted. These archives, this technology, it was meant to be found, meant to be used, just not by you." The Admiral's exoskeleton darkened further. "You have no idea what forces you're dealing with." Actually, Sarah's hand brushed another crystal panel, sending ripples of light through the entire chamber. "I think I do. The precursors didn't vanish, did they? They didn't die out or transcend or any of the other theories. They seeded themselves throughout the galaxy, spreading their genetic potential across dozens of worlds." Dr. Vixna's tentacles writhed in revelation. "The human genome has markers that no natural evolution could explain." Sarah nodded. "We're not just another species stumbling into the galactic community, Admiral. We're the descendants of the ones who built all of this. And you've known it since the first humans stepped aboard a council ship." "If what you're saying is true," Dr. Vixna interjected, "then the Duration Project was never about testing humanity's worth." Sarah's eyes locked with Kextor's. "It was about containing us." studying us, making sure we never realize what we really are. The Admiral's crystalline form vibrated with barely contained emotion. The Council maintains order, structure. We cannot allow. He was cut off as every crystal matrix in the chamber suddenly blazed with light. Sarah felt power surge through her, ancient knowledge flooding her consciousness. The quantum chip in her pocket burned like a star. You can't allow what, Admiral? Can't allow humans to access their own heritage. Can't allow the truth to destroy your carefully maintained hierarchy. The guard's weapons hummed to life, but Sarah barely noticed. The chamber's energy was flowing through her now, responding to her presence in ways that should have been impossible. Dr. Vixna backed away, her tentacles waving in patterns of awe and fear. Commander Chen, Kextor's voice held a note of pleading. Think about what you're doing. The balance of power is about to change. Sarah spread her arms, and the chamber responded. Holographic displays expanded, filling the space with star maps and technical schematics that had been hidden for millennia. The precursors left this for us to find, Admiral. All of it. Not to maintain your balance of power, but to break it. The quantum chip pulsed one final time, and Sarah understood its purpose at last. It wasn't just a data storage device. It was a key, meant to unlock something that had slept in Earth's genetic code since before recorded history. You should have just let me on the bridge, she said softly, as the chamber's light reached a blinding intensity. It would have been so much simpler. The last thing she saw before the light engulfed everything was Admiral Kextor's crystalline form shifting to pure white, the color of absolute terror in his species. Sarah Chen, daughter of Earth, heir to the precursors, smiled as ancient power flowed through her veins. The game of secrets was over. The age of revelation had begun. Alarms blared throughout the flagship as systems that had lain dormant for millennia surged to life. Sarah stood in the center of the archive chamber, ancient energy coursing through her, while holograms danced around her like a storm of light. Dr. Vixna's tentacles waved in complex patterns as she recorded everything, while Admiral Kextor and his guards remained frozen in place, weapons still raised but useless against what was unfolding. The precursor systems are integrating with the ship's network, Dr. Vixna announced, her voice trembling with excitement. It's like they were waiting for this moment. They were, Sarah replied, her voice resonating with newfound power. The quantum chip had merged with her nervous system, unlocking genetic memories buried in her DNA. Everything the Council built, all their technology, it was reverse engineered from precursor artifacts, but they never understood what they were copying. A new hologram materialized, showing the galaxy in perfect detail. Thousands of points of light pulsed in unison, each one marking a hidden precursor installation. They weren't just scattered ruins. They formed a vast network, waiting to be awakened. Impossible, Kextor whispered, his crystalline form shifting through colors of denial and fear. The surveys showed only fragments, scattered remains. Your surveys showed what the systems wanted you to see. Sarah turned to face him, ancient knowledge burning behind her eyes. The precursors didn't trust their technology to just anyone. They embedded safeguards, genetic locks that would only respond to their own descendants. Humans, Dr. Vixna breathed, her tentacles curling in understanding. That's why the Council was so afraid when they discovered Earth. You weren't just another primitive species. We were the heirs they never expected to find. Sarah nodded. The chamber's energy pulsed stronger, responding to her emotions. The precursors didn't vanish. They seeded themselves across the galaxy, hiding their potential in primitive populations that would evolve naturally. They knew their civilization had grown too powerful, too dangerous. They needed a fresh start. Kextor's exoskeleton crackled with tension. The Duration Project. We were monitoring the activation sequence. Trying to prevent exactly this. Sarah gestured, and new holograms appeared, showing classified Council documents. You knew humans were different from the moment you found us. Our neural patterns, our genetic structure. It was too similar to the fragments of precursor data you recovered. So you created the project, pretending to test our worth while actually studying us, containing us, making sure we never accessed our true heritage. The Admiral's crystalline form darkened with shame. You don't understand the dangers. The precursors nearly destroyed the galaxy in their civil war. Their technology was meant to unite, not divide. Sarah's voice carried the weight of ancient memories. They didn't hide their legacy out of fear. They hid it so it would be found at the right time, by the right people. People who had evolved beyond the mistakes of the past. The chamber's light shifted, forming images of Earth's history, wars and peace, destruction and creation, humanity's long journey from caves to the stars. We're not perfect, Admiral. We've made our own mistakes, fought our own battles, but we've learned from them, grown beyond them. That's why the systems are responding now. Not because of what we are, but because of what we've become. Dr. Vixna moved closer, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. The genetic markers, the neural patterns, they were tests. Safeguards, Sarah corrected. The technology only activates for humans who've reached the right level of psychological and social development. The precursors didn't want their power inherited by conquerors or tyrants. They wanted it found by explorers, diplomats, people who would use it to bring the galaxy together. Kextor's weapons finally lowered, his guards following suit. The Council will never accept this. The power balance will change for the better. Sarah smiled, feeling the ship's systems harmonizing with the ancient network. Look around you, Admiral. Your weapons couldn't stop this if you tried. But I'm not here to conquer or control. I'm here to fulfill the Precursor's final mission. To unite the galaxy as equals, not as rulers and subjects. The chamber's light reached a crescendo, and Sarah felt connections forming across space. Other humans throughout the galaxy were experiencing the same awakening, their dormant potential activating in response to her discovery. The quantum chip pulsed one final time before dissolving into pure energy, its work complete. So, she said, turning to face Kextor and Dr. Vixna, we have a choice to make. We can fight this change, waste lives and resources trying to maintain the old order. Or we can embrace it, work together to understand this legacy, and use it wisely. She held out her hands, ancient power dancing between her fingers. What's it going to be? Dr. Vixna's tentacles moved in a pattern of acceptance. The scientific possibilities alone. This could advance our understanding by centuries. All eyes turned to Admiral Kextor. The Zentarian stood rigid, his crystalline form cycling through colors of conflict before finally settling into a deep, clear blue. The Council must be informed, but perhaps it is time for change. Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of history, past and future, settling on her shoulders. Then let's begin. Together. The archive chamber hummed with power, ancient systems awakening across the galaxy. Humanity's moment had arrived, not with conquest or dominion, but with the promise of unity. The real work was just beginning. The Galactic Council's emergency chamber was chaos. Representatives from 100 species argued in a cacophony of translated voices, while emergency reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Sarah stood at the center of it all, the ancient energy still flowing through her veins, while Admiral Kextor and Dr. Vixna flanked her like unlikely allies. The human colonies are all reporting similar activations, Avril Ambassador announced, their gaseous form swirling with agitation inside their containment suit. Precursor installations are awakening everywhere they've settled. This is a violation of Council sovereignty. The Nexian representative's scales rattled with fury. Humanity cannot be allowed to possess such power unilaterally. Sarah raised her hand, and the chamber's advanced systems responded instantly, creating a perfect holographic display of the galaxy. Thousands of points of light pulsed in harmony, showing the true extent of the precursor network. This isn't about possession or power, she said, her voice carrying effortlessly through the chaos. The precursor systems aren't weapons to be controlled. They're tools for connection, understanding, unity. Tools that only work when used with the right intention. Pretty words, sneered the Nexian, from someone who now holds the key to the galaxy's most advanced technology. Dr. Vixna's tentacles moved in patterns of scientific precision. You misunderstand the nature of the activation. These systems aren't responding to human biology alone. They're responding to specific psychological and social markers. Intentions matter. The technology simply won't function for anyone seeking to dominate or control. The chamber erupted again, dozens of species arguing about the implications. Sarah felt the quantum energy surge through her, responding to the rising tensions. But before she could speak, an unexpected voice cut through the noise. She's right. Admiral Kextor stepped forward, his crystalline form glowing with conviction. I've seen it myself. The archives, the technology, they're not just machines. They're alive in a way we never understood. And they chose humanity not because humans are superior, but because they've evolved in the way the precursors hoped. A new figure emerged from the crowd. High Counselor Zen of the Quantum Collective, their energy form pulsing with ancient wisdom. Perhaps it is time to share what some of us have long suspected. The precursors didn't just seed humanity with their potential. They seeded all of us in different ways. We've all inherited fragments of their legacy. Sarah nodded, understanding flooding through her. The holographic display shifted, showing new connections, subtle links between species that no one had noticed before. That's why the Council formed in the first place, isn't it? Some deep recognition, drawing us all together even before we understood why. The Duration Project, Kextor added, his voice heavy with revelation. We thought we were containing a threat, but we were actually witnessing the final stage of the precursor's plan. The chamber had fallen silent, every species watching as the holographic galaxy spun before them, showing patterns and connections that had always been there, waiting to be discovered. We stand at a crossroads, Sarah announced, feeling the weight of history in her words. The precursor network is awakening, but it's not just responding to humans. It's responding to all of us, to the connections we've built, the civilization we've created together. We can fight this change, tear ourselves apart trying to control powers we barely understand. Or we can embrace it, work together to unlock the full potential of every species. The Vrel ambassador's containment suit hummed thoughtfully. The human speaks wisdom. We've detected unusual energies in our gas giant colonies, patterns we could never explain before. The deep-sea archives on our homeworld, the Mersian representative added, tentacles waving in excitement. They've started responding to our researchers in new ways. One by one, representatives began sharing similar stories, mysterious sights, unexplained phenomena, ancient mysteries that suddenly made sense in light of this new understanding. The quantum energy flowing through Sarah pulsed in harmony with each revelation. But not everyone was convinced. The Nexian representative's scales darkened with threat. Some of us will not submit to this. Reorganization. The old powers, the traditional hierarchies, will change. High Counselor Zen interrupted, their energy form brightening, as they were always meant to. The question is not whether this change will happen, but how we choose to face it. Sarah stepped forward, ancient power dancing around her like a corona. I'm not asking anyone to submit. I'm asking you to collaborate. The precursor network wasn't built to elevate one species above others. It was built to help us all rise together. The chamber's mood was shifting, fear and anger giving way to curiosity and cautious hope. But Sarah could feel the quantum energy warning her of approaching danger. Time was running out. The storm is coming, she announced, watching new alerts flash across the holographic display. The network's awakening is causing chain reactions throughout the galaxy. We need to work together now, or everything the precursors built, everything we've built, could be lost. Admiral Kextor's crystalline form pulsed with determined light. Then let us not waste time with further debate. I move that the Council formally acknowledge this revelation and establish an emergency response protocol. Dr. Vixna's tentacles curved in agreement. We'll need teams of scientists from every species working together to understand these activations. The chamber hummed with growing purpose as more representatives stepped forward, offering resources, expertise, support. But Sarah kept her eyes on the holographic galaxy, watching the points of light pulse faster, stronger. The storm was rising. The real test was still to come. The flagship's bridge was transformed. Ancient precursor systems had merged with Council technology, creating something entirely new. Holographic displays showed the galaxy in perfect clarity, every star system alive with data streams and energy signatures. Sarah stood at the command station, quantum energy flowing through her as she coordinated teams across space. "Status report," she called out, watching as the crisis unfolded. "The network's energy levels are still rising," Dr. Vixna responded, her tentacles dancing over modified controls. "We're seeing cascading reactions in 17 sectors." Admiral Kextor's crystalline form glowed with focused light as he studied tactical displays. "The Nexian fleet is moving to secure their sector's precursor sites. They're not responding to Council communications." Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the pulse of the ancient network. The precursors had built it as a tool for unity, but that same power could tear the galaxy apart if mishandled. The quantum energy showed her possibilities, probability streams branching into countless futures. "They don't understand," she murmured. "The sites can't be controlled by force. The more they try, the worse the reaction becomes." As if proving her point, new alerts flashed across the displays. The Nexian attempts to seize control of precursor installations had triggered defense mechanisms. Energy surges were creating gravitational distortions, threatening entire star systems. "Council forces are moving to contain the situation," Kextor reported, but his crystalline form darkened with concern. "But if the Nexians resist, we'll have a war," Sarah finished. Exactly what the fail-safes were meant to prevent. High Counselor Zen materialized on the bridge, their quantum form pulsing with urgency. "The Nexian leadership refuses to listen. They believe whoever controls the precursor network will control the galaxy's future." Sarah felt the ancient energy surge through her, responding to the rising crisis. The precursors had faced this same challenge, the temptation to use their power for dominance rather than unity. It had nearly destroyed them. She wouldn't let history repeat itself. "Open a direct channel to the Nexian fleet," she commanded. The bridge systems responded instantly, creating a communication link that bypassed standard protocols. The Nexian admiral appeared in the holographic display, scales dark with determination. "Whatever you're planning, human, it won't work. These artifacts are too important to be left in the hands of." "Look around you," Sarah interrupted, gesturing. The quantum energy responded, and suddenly every ship in the Nexian fleet was linked directly to the precursor network. Their crews could see what she saw, feel what she felt, the true purpose of the ancient technology. "The precursors didn't build weapons or tools of control," she continued, letting the energy flow through her words. "They built bridges, connections, a network that only functions when we work together." The Nexian admiral's scales shifted, uncertainty replacing aggression as the truth of her words resonated through the connection. "But the power isn't meant for any one species." Sarah expanded the link, showing him the deeper patterns. "Look at your own worlds. The precursor sites there aren't responding to human DNA. They're responding to Nexian patterns, waiting for your people to reach the right stage of development. Just like sites across the galaxy are responding to every species in unique ways." Dr. Vixna's tentacles moved in patterns of scientific excitement. "The energy signatures are stabilizing. The network is accepting the connection." "Because intention matters," Sarah explained, feeling the ancient systems harmonizing. "The precursors designed everything to respond to cooperation, to unity. The more we try to control it, the more it resists. But when we work together," she let her consciousness expand through the network, showing everyone, the Nexian fleet, the Council forces, observers across the galaxy, the full scope of what was possible. Not conquest or control, but a true joining of minds and purposes. The Nexian Admiral's scales shifted to colors of wonder. We never imagined. None of us did. Sarah smiled. That's why the precursors waited, scattered their legacy across so many species. They wanted us to discover it together, when we were ready. Alerts across the bridge began clearing as the Nexian fleet stood down. The energy surges stabilized as fear and aggression gave way to understanding. Through the quantum link, Sarah could feel the change rippling across space. Not just a political shift, but a fundamental transformation in how species saw themselves and each other. Admiral Kextor stepped forward, his crystalline form glowing with newfound purpose. The Council will need to change. Everything will need to change. That's what the precursors hoped for. Sarah agreed. Not an ending, but a new beginning. A chance for all of us to grow beyond what we thought possible. High Counselor Zen's quantum form pulsed with approval. Then let us begin. Together. Sarah felt the ancient energy hum through her veins, no longer foreign but a natural part of who she was, who humanity was always meant to be. Not conquerors or saviors, but bridges between past and future, between species and possibilities. The holographic galaxy spun before them, every point of light pulsing with promise. The storm had passed. The dawn of a new age had begun. And somewhere in the vast network of stars and connections, Sarah could almost hear the precursors' whispered approval. Their children had finally come home.